Hello all, welcome back. This video we are going to solve two other important and interesting intermediate level problems using arrays in C. Moving on, the first problem is this. Given a scenario, you have to find the maximum increase in rainfall between consecutive days. So the scenario is that you are given the rainfall details and you have to find the maximum increase between two or more consecutive days. So let us do the program and solve the problem. Yes, right. So this is how I start. Inside main I initialize all my variables. Look, max increase is initialized to 0. This is an accumulator variable, right? So I am asking the user to enter the number of days. So n is my number of days and I am asking the user to enter the rainfall data for 5 days if n is equal to 5. How do I do that? I use my for loop. Inside for loop, I use my scanf and then I get input the array. Right, the core part of the program. So now I should find out the difference. So how should I find out the difference between two consecutive days? And I should find out the maximum increase, right? So look, I use a for loop. For I equal to 0, I less than n minus 1, I plus plus. So for 0 to n minus 1, this for loop runs. What is actually happening inside for loop? Reign of I plus 1 minus reign of I. What is I now? I is 0. Reign of I plus 1 means reign of 0 plus 1, which is reign of 1 minus reign of 0. So the second data is subtracted from the first data. So that is the difference. So the difference is calculated between two consecutive rainfall data. That is the meaning of this statement. And after computing the difference, if difference is greater than max increase, yes, if suppose it is greater than max increase will get the value of the difference. Or in other words, difference is assigned to max increase. This is what is done in the for loop. Next, after for loop, what I try to do? I try to print the value of max increase. That's it. Right? So if this part of the code is tricky now here, let us sort out. The user enters number of days. Say for example, 6 number of days. And the user also enters the rainfall data for 6 number of days. Look, 10, 15, 12, 20, 18, 30 are all the rainfall data for the 6 number of days. Using my for loop, I will find out the consecutive difference. Diff is found out. What is the difference? Day 2 minus day 1. That is 15 minus 10. The difference is 5. Likewise, for all days, the consecutive differences are found. Day 3 minus day 2. Day 4 minus day 3. Day 5 minus day 4. Day 6 minus day 5. So once a difference is found, what happens? Say for example, the first difference value is 5. That is checked whether is greater than max increase. Look at the second statement inside the block of the for loop. If difference is greater than max increase. What is difference? 5. 5 is greater than max increase. Max increase initially is 0. Yes. Right. So max increase is equal to 5 now. Again check. Minus 3 is greater than 5. No. So still max increase is 5. 8 is greater than 5. Yes. So max increase is 8. Minus 2 is greater than 8. No. So max increase is 8 still. 12 is greater than 8. Yes. So max increase is 12. So the maximum increase is found as 12. So the output will be maximum rainfall increase is equal to 12. Right? So we have solved the problem. We have found the maximum increase in rainfall between 6 consecutive days. There should be a question. If the rainfall never increases, what happens? The values will only go down, right? The output will be what? Will be 0. The maximum rainfall increase will be 0 if suppose there is no rainfall increase here between the consecutive 6 days. Done? Any doubts? Post it in the comment section. I'm moving to the second scenario. The second question is this. Imagine you are a teacher arranging marks of students from lowest to highest. How will you do that? So you have to imagine an array where the array stores the student marks randomly in some order. So now the task is, the goal is to arrange the marks from lowest to highest, right? So this is an example for sorting. Very important. Sorting and searching are very important algorithmic concepts that you have to keep in mind. You have to be well versed in sorting and searching. Right. So this is how I start. Declare all the variables. I have an array called marks whose size is 100, type is int. Then I'm asking the user to enter number of students. N is the number of students. I'm asking the user to enter the marks of the students. Yes, using for loop and scanf, I get the marks of the students. Done. Okay, coming to the core part of the program. Right. So the core part of the program is this. There are two for loops. Look, for I equal to 0, I less than n minus 1, I plus plus, followed by an inner loop. For j equal to 0, j less than n minus I minus 1. Very important. J less than n minus I minus 1, j plus plus. So these outer and inner loops, what are the contents inside the inner loop? I am trying to check whether marks of j is greater than j plus 1, and I am swapping. Right? I am swapping. Marks of j is written to temp. Marks of j plus 1 is assigned to marks of j, and temp is assigned to marks of j plus 1. Right? So there will be a big confusion or clarity needed in this part of the code. We will check. So after the for loop, what I do? I am trying to print the marks from the lowest to highest. I use a for loop and a printf statement to print marks of I. Right? So now let us understand the core part of the program. So before getting into the core part of the program, you should understand why there are two loops. The outer loop is for the number of passes. So this outer loop decides how many rounds are needed. For n is equal to 4, 3 passes are needed. Right? Okay, the inner loop is needed for comparisons inside one passes. So if n is equal to 4, how many passes are needed? 3 passes are needed. So the inner loop is for comparisons, checking and swapping, comparing adjacent elements and swapping. If suppose swapping is needed, you have to swap for one pass. So all one pass operations, inner loop is needed. Right? Okay. So this kind of sorting, I call it to be a bubble sort. You can imagine bubbles in the water. So bubbles in the water, if water is disturbed, all the bubbles come up. Likewise, the elements come up, the bigger elements come up and get stored at the last. Right? So this is an example of a sorting mechanism named bubble sort. Right? So now let us understand the core part of the program. So n is equal to 5. So there are 5 marks, 78, 45, 90, 60 and 55. I'm going to teach you the first pass and you will do the other passes yourself. Pass 1. Outer loop, I is equal to 0. Yes, 0 is less than 4. So inner loop runs. Inner loop runs for j equal to 0 to 3. J is less than n minus I minus 1. So the inner loop runs for until j equal to 0 to 3. So j equal to 0, I compare 78 and 45. I check whether 78 is greater than 45. Yes, it is greater. So I swap. Look, marks of j equal to temp. J plus 1 assigned to marks of j. Temp assigned to marks of j plus 1. So now the array becomes 45, 78, 90, 60 and 55. J becomes 1. Yes, j gets incremented and becomes 1. Now compare 78 and 90. Is 78 greater than 90? No. So it remains the same. No swapping is done. So now the array contents will be 45, 78, 90, 60 and 55. J gets incremented by 1 and J becomes 2. Now you compare 90 and 60. Is 90 greater than 60? Yes. Swap. So the contents of the array becomes 45, 78, 60, 90 and 55. J gets incremented by 1. J equal to 3. Compare 90 and 55. Yes, 90 is greater than 55. Swap. So the content of the array becomes 45, 78, 60, 55 and 90. The largest value 90 is moved to the end. Pass 2. So pass 2, I is equal to 1. Inner loop runs from j equal to 0 to 2. Pass 3, I equal to 2. Inner loop again runs from j equal to 0 to 1. Pass 4, I equal to 3. So inner loop runs from j equal to 0. Right? So finally, after all these 4 passes, your sorted array will be 45, 55, 60, 78 and 90. So as I said, it's like water bubbles. The first pass, the topmost element. What is the topmost element here? The highest element is moved to the end of the array. Likewise, it continues, right? So finally, you will get a sorted array. So this is an example of a sorting mechanism known as bubble sort. So I leave pass 2, 3 and 4 for you to work out. Please post it in the comment section whether you are able to work pass 2, 3 and 4. Thank you. Happy learning.